When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With TwinSpires, you can place your bets with confidence, whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with TwinSpires. And now you can race to victory with TwinSpires tournaments.
Welcome back to the TwinSpires Racing Roundtable. I'm Ashley Anderson here with James Scully and Vance Hansen. It's our final roundtable of 2024. And we're going to cover the two Road to the Kentucky Derby prep races from over the weekend, the Springboard Mile and the Los Alamitos Futurity. We'll also look at the inaugural synthetic championships at Turfway Park. Of course, what else caught our eye from the weekend, and we'll finish up with some wagering resolutions or reflections on 2024. Let's jump right in on those Road to the Kentucky Derby prep races. And Vance, I'll start with you today. What were your takeaways from those two preps?
I didn't find the Springboard Mile overly compelling. Cole Battle was the winner. He won by a half length. He maintained his undefeated record on dirt, winning the race, having won over wet tracks at Evangeline Downs and Delta Downs before that. So it was good to see that he showed some prowess over fast going on Friday night. But traditionally, this race isn't a great precursor to Derby success. We've had some really nice horses come out of it. Will Take Charge, who didn't do much in the Triple Crown back in 2012, wound up being 3-year-old champion. He was second in the Springboard Mile. Then a few years ago, Senor Buscador was a very really good winner of this race, but he developed more into a top older horse. So this race has a lot to prove as far as being a major Kentucky Derby prep, and I want to see Cole Battle do a lot more at stronger venues than what he's been competing at so far. Shifting to the Los Alamitos Futurity, I mean, the story of the race to me was the disappointing effort turned in by Breeders' Cup Juvenile runner-up Gaming, who failed to pick up at any point and finished a badly beaten third. Now, the winner, Journalism, is a nicely bred colt, son of Curlin out of an Uncle Mo mare. He's now 2 for 2 going a route of ground for trainer Michael McCarthy. I didn't find this race necessarily better or worse than most of the Derby preps we've seen this season. So I think the Derby picture after this result going into the winter seems pretty wide open.
Yes, James, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Journalism, I thought, I thought he looked good winning the Los Alamitos Futurity. He came under a little bit of a rod nearing the conclusion of the far turn, and Getaway Car tried to dig in when he challenged him in upper to mid stretch, but then he clearly got the best of him late and won going away. He was a rallying third, first time out at 6 furlongs, broke his maiden in his previous start at a 2-turn mile, and is a horse that is just making good progress for Michael McCarthy. Also got a 99 Brisnet speed rating, which, flatters him and his performance, winning by 3.5 lengths. Michael McCarthy, he won the 2021 Preakness with Ron Bauer. So he's got Triple Crown experience, but he didn't have his first Kentucky Derby starter until earlier this year, endlessly finished 9th. So it's always good, I think, to get that experience under your belt. And McCarthy is obviously becoming a bigger and bigger trainer, and a horse like Journalism looks like a serious Triple Crown prospect. I'll agree with Vance's sentiments on Gaming. I mean, he's 1 to 2. Looked like he was going to make a run midway on the far turn to challenge up the inside, and then just had nothing left. Never even got even with Getaway Car, and weakened pretty badly down the stretch. I will say Journalism, Alpha, that November 17th maiden win, he was bet down to 52 to 1 in pool 2 of the Kentucky Derby future wager. So he took a little sneaky action off of that maiden win, I thought. And he's by Curlin. And Curlin was the second lowest individual sire after Into Mischief in the lone sire wager at the end of November. Curlin went off 12 to 1 in it. So Journalism is definitely a good looking prospect. As far as the Springboard Mile, I'll echo Vance's thoughts. Cole Battle, he won first time out in an off the turf maiden, ran poorly in a pair of turf races, and now has won 2 straight again on the main track. those first two were on off track. This one wasn't. So he's 3 for 3 on the main track. And, he looks like a very useful type for this Lonnie Briley, his trainer. I wouldn't put him like a Kentucky Derby contender just yet. He got a lot to prove on that front. But this is a race that, like Van said, has produced some good horses. Giant Mischief, who ran second back 2 years ago, he missed most of his sophomore campaign and even part of this season, but he's coming off back-to-back wins and a Keeneland allowance in the Fall Highway. He looks like he could be one of the best sprinters in 2025 for Brad Cox. So this race has produced some good runners, but none that have had the Springboard Mile, but none that have had a serious impact upon the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, off of that point, there's never been any runner finished on the money in the Kentucky Derby from the Springboard Mile, but it has only been a prep for the Derby for, I guess this is the 7th year. And then as far as the Los Alamitos Futurity, we've had 6 starters go on to win the Derby, but it's been a while. Giacomo was the last to do it. So that's been over, 30 years?
Nearly 20.
Nearly 20. I'm bad at math off the top of my head. But I would say, journalism, I thought, did look impressive. A 99 Brisnet speed figure, a career best, beat 3 Baffert runners. And Gaming was disappointing. That was a horse. I think I even threw a few dollars down on Gaming in that pool, one of the Kentucky Derby future wager. But Flavian Pratt was going for the record for graded stakes victories. And he said he thought he had a chance, but didn't really have any excuses. And when he asked him, he just didn't fire. So I don't know where Gaming goes from here, but it does make me feel like the chance of him winning the Derby or even showing up in the Derby now doesn't look so great after seeing him in the Los Alamitos Futurity. But, maybe as a 3-year-old, we'll see something a little bit better.
Maybe he came back a little bit quick. One thing about Gaming, I will say, I'm not a big fan of freshening these horses from like August or early September up to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. And Gaming did that. He ran in early September, and then he didn't run again for 2 months. So maybe that effort took a little bit more out of him than Baffert thought. So you could possibly give him a pass for, running that third. Baffert was going for his 15th win. He had 3 of the 5 starters. That's like a big takeaway too. The fact that, he got beat in that race.
Yeah.
He's holding such a strong hand.
Yeah, he's had 8 wins in that race out of the last 11 runnings, I believe. So
yeah,
kind of crazy that he didn't get a win with 3 of the 5 in the field. Well, let's move over to Turfway Park. We had the inaugural synthetic championships, and we had 4 stakes races on the card that I believe offered, 6 figures in stakes purses.
$1 million. There was $4
million
stakes
total.
for $1 million.
Okay, I didn't have the
they were
figures
all
in
like
front of me.
$250,000 stakes. Sorry.
Well, James, I'll let you take it from there since you know the purse money better than me. So what were your thoughts on the synthetic championships?
Well, I'll start with Paros. Claimed for $40,000, 4 starts previously, excuse me. Paros stretched his win streak to 5 with a really determined head triumph. You can see him here in the green hat making a strong move to the lead here in mid-stretch. And I just thought this was a really big effort, considering I thought the runner-up, Dresden Road, he really ran well. He got wiped out on the first turn by this horse Noises Off, Dresden Road did, and really ran a good second. But Paros had enough to hold him off. He's just improving. Like I said, he was claimed 4 starts previously, and now in 3 races, he's earned more than $280,000 for his new connections. Just another success story of former claim success story for Mike Maker. Paros was making his stakes debut in his 17th career start on Saturday night. So, he's definitely, like I said, he's getting better. He's progressing. And, I wouldn't be surprised to see him carry his form forward, or continue to be a good, at least a listed stakes type horse for Mike Maker moving forward. And one thing I'll add about him is that he's 5 for 8 on the turf. So it'll be no surprise to see Maker potentially point him for some turf stakes this spring as well. Like a Dresden Road, I thought he ran well. He's a 3-year-old colt that had won 2 of his 3 previous starts over stakes rivals, and barely gets beat. But he appears to be that was his first start outside of Woodbine, so it's pretty encouraging for him moving forward as a 4-year-old. And then I will talk on Howard Wolowitz. Howard Wolowitz, he won the 6 furlong holiday cheer. He broke from the rail in that race and did not break well, broke poorly, but he quickly recovered the stock up close in third. And then you'll see he's the one horse here on the outside, driving past Run Carson to win by about 2 lengths, maybe a length and a half was the official margin. And, this is a colt, Howard Wolowitz, who just made his graded stakes debut 2 starts previously in the Grade 1 Franklin Simpson at Kentucky Downs, which he won. That was his second stakes attempt after an effort in a listed event at Saratoga. And this money's colt, this was a good win. This is very encouraging, I think, moving forward for him. This win, he ran 6 furlongs in 108 and change, just missed the track record. But he's obviously going to be returning to turf and pointing for premier turf races at a mile or a mile and a 16th next year. Howard Wolowitz will, and he didn't get in. He was listed as an AE for the Breeders' Cup Mile, and he was in the main field of the turf sprint. So his connections ran him in the Breeders' Cup turf sprint. He ran 9th. He ran poorly, so it was good to see him rebound. I want to just say, running poorly in a Breeders' Cup sprint race as a 3-year-old isn't necessarily a bad thing. Way back in 2010, Wise Dan ran 6th in the Breeders' Cup sprint as a 3-year-old, and he went on and won 11 Grade 1s and 2 editions of the Breeders' Cup Mile and was a Hall of Famer. So, Howard Wolowitz, time will tell if he can go on and carry his form forward on the turf, but I thought it was a good way to conclude his sophomore season.
Vance, what are your takeaways?
I'll echo some, if not all, of James's points on Howard Wolowitz. One can kind of quibble about the grade inflation affecting the Franklin Simpson at Kentucky Downs, the track's first Grade 1. But there's no debating that Howard Wolowitz turned in a Grade 1 type performance Saturday night. And as James mentioned, he just barely missed the track record. He ran in 108.10, and that was less than 1/10 of a second off the track record set by Fatal Bullet some 20 years ago, I think. And that horse was Canadian Horse of the Year. So he's in good company as far as his speed. I'm going to take a little more positive view about Howard Wolowitz for on his Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint performance. Only lost the race by 3 lengths, and I think he was conceding a lot of seasoning to most of his opponents in that race. So I think he should only get better. And if connections decide to keep him sprinting rather than stretching him out next year, with Cogburn retired, I think there's room for Howard Wolowitz to make an impact in the turf sprint division next season. 5.5 might be a bit sharp for him. 5 furlongs might be a bit sharp, but I think there's some adequate races out there at 6 furlongs at least. He could be very effective on there. My last point on the synthetic championship is that it was really a tremendous success. The handle was more than $6.18 million, which was third best in the country on Saturday behind Gulfstream and Aqueduct, and easily beat the handle at major winter signals like Oaklawn Fairgrounds and Tampa Bay. And year over year, Turfway's handle on the Saturday card was up over 80%. The corresponding card last year was only 3.4 million. So overall, a tremendous business success, this first synthetic championships card at Turfway, and I think this event will continue to grow.
I agree with that business point. Yeah, that was just a huge success. That the racing has been so strong after only like a couple of weeks at Turfway this winter. And last year at Kentucky Downs, that's when Cogburn came along. So maybe Howard Wolowitz can follow in his steps this year and go on and have a real big season in 2025 like Cogburn did this year.
I was disappointed Patches O'Houlihan scratched out of that race. That was the reigning Canadian champion sprinter. That was my top pick in that race. So I don't know what would have happened if he had have a chance to run, but I did get the exacta with Howard Wolowitz on top with Ron Carson underneath, but not as exciting because Howard Wolowitz was favored. But aside from that, Mike Maker and Luis Saez paired up to win 3 races at Turfway on Saturday, including both 2-turn stakes. We already talked about Paros, but also Dana's Beauty and the My Charmer Stakes. Nice little photo right there from the winner's circle. And the other race where Saez and Maker paired up was Racecraft winning earlier on the card in race 3, and this was a horse that was claimed by Mike Maker out of a race at Gulfstream in December 2022. And as far as Dana's Beauty and I'm blanking on the name, Paros, they were both transferred over to Maker's barn this year. So as you already mentioned, James, another example of him just claiming these horses and winning stakes races and winning big purses. So a great day for him at Turfway, and Luis Saez, of course, who also had a great meet at Churchill and now over at Turfway, winning a bunch of races. Other than that, I don't know that there was much else to take away from it. We had a huge long shot win the other stakes race, and it was a huge long shot that came in second as well, so that exacta paid pretty well, which we've seen some big prices at Turfway so far. So definitely, if you're not playing that track, it's a great chance to win some big money playing either, just straight win bets or exactas, trifectas, superfectas. I think one superfecta recently paid, I don't know, it was like maybe 10,000 or something like that on 10 cents. We're seeing big prices.
The late pick 5 on Saturday paid 10,000. It was like $10,150 or something. So yeah, it's tough sledding out there. It's really a kind of track where if you like to play those multi-race wagers, you could hit one. It could hit a late pick 5 out there at Turfway, chances are good you're going to make a big score.
Yeah, have some nice Christmas money there. Yeah. Well, let's move on to what else caught our eye from the weekend. So what was that for you, Vance?
I just want to mention a couple of prominent classic winners that we lost in the past week. Lane's End Farm announced the death of Lemon Drop Kid, the 1999 Belmont Stakes winner at age 28. And then Always Dreaming, who won the 2017 Kentucky Derby, died prematurely at age 10 due to complications from colic. We see here Lemon Drop Kid winning the Whitney Handicap in 2000 at Saratoga. This was one in a streak of 4 major wins Lemon Drop Kid had as a 4-year-old. He also won the Brooklyn Suburban and Woodward in addition to the Whitney that year, and that propelled him to champion older male honors as a 4-year-old. Unfortunately, as was the case the previous 2 years, he was a bit over the top by the time the Breeders' Cup rolled around, and he was unplaced in the Classic for the 2nd consecutive year. Lemon Drop Kid was a really solid racehorse, won 10 of 24 starts, made more than $3.2 million. He was trained by Scotty Schulhofer, Hall of Famer. He won the Futurity as a 2-year-old, which was his grade 1 at the time. And then he upset the Belmont Stakes at 29-1 when Charismatic was attempting to win the Triple Crown, but injured himself in deep stretch. And shout out to my dad, who catches the replay of the Roundtable every week. This was one of his favorite racehorses because he cashed on him in the Belmont at 29-1. So tough loss for my dad. And then I'd also mention that Lemon Drop Kid won the Travers Stakes as a 3-year-old too. So solid grade 1 performer all 3 seasons he raced. And he was a pretty good sire too. He excelled with turf runners, which is kind of no surprise. He was a grandson of the legendary French mare Miesque. But he also got Kentucky Oaks winner Lemons Forever, who became Broodmare of the Year after she produced a champion mare, Forever Unbridled, and grade 1 winner Unbridled Forever. Lemon Drop Kid was also the dam sire of Philly Sprint champion Finest City, among other runners. So big loss both on the racing front and in the breeding side with the Lemon Drop Kid. Always Dreaming was the best 3-year-old in America for about 7 weeks in the spring of 2017 when he captured the Florida Derby and then the Kentucky Derby as a lukewarm favorite over a wet track. The rest of his racing career didn't quite pan out, but it's still pretty tough to lose a winner of America's most celebrated race so soon. So condolences to the connections of both of these fine animals.
Always Dreaming, the sire of Saudi Crown too, so another good offspring to come out of that.
I was at the Travers in '99 when Lemon Drop Kid gamely defeated Vision and Verse. That was a good Travers, and Van sort of touched on it. if he could have like carried his form to other tracks, he could have been horse of the year in my mind, because he was terrific in New York. I think all 7 stakes wins, he had a bunch of Grade One wins. They all came in New York, and unfortunately, I don't think he ever won a stake outside of New York. But yeah, when he was on it, he ran some big races,
Yeah,
definitely. And
he did finish first in the Widener at Gulfstream,
did
but he was disqualified and placed fourth, I think, which was a crazy result, especially since he was a very heavy favorite that day.
I remember backing him. Unfortunately, we were on Lemons forever at the Oaks, so did cash on him, and he was always a good broodmare sire. I thought Lemon Drop Kid, but yeah, I bet Lemons. I bet Lemon Drop Kid against Cat Thief in that infamous Breeders' Cup at Gulfstream. I think he was fifth or sixth. Lemon Drop Kid and Cat Thief outgained Bud Royale to the wire. As far as what else caught your eye, I'm going to mention that a pair of 2-year-olds both turned in good performances last weekend by Nyquist. Now, Nyquist, his offspring have yet to have a serious impact in the Derby or Triple Crown events. But I want to point out last year, Nyquist, he's the sire of Nysos, who was undefeated, looked like the best 3-year-old after he won the Bob Lewis last year, and he was unfortunately sidelined. And then he had another late blooming 3-year-old come along last spring in Encino, who won 5 of 6 and was coming off a sharp win in the Lexington, and he unfortunately got sidelined and right before the Kentucky Derby. So he had a couple of nice 3-year-olds last year. And he's got 2 to watch out for in 2005 in Brodier and Vassimo. Here's Brodier. Brodier ran first time out. He didn't break sharply, went up and chased the pace and wound up running like 5th or 6th to Guns Loaded, who I bet at 72 to 1 in the future wager pool 2. I loved Guns Loaded. And then Brodier, he dueled on the lead in this race, broke on top, dueled on a pretty solid pace, 22:45.51. And then the big even money favorite, 11 to 10 favorite, El Prestigio, who has run second to Ferocious, Donut God, and then another real good to Prater and another good maiden race. He sat right off the pace, got the perfect trip. Looked like he was going to roll right by Brodier to the lead to me in mid-stretch. And I love the way Brodier dug in and held him off by a head to win his second time out for Mark Cassie. Got a solid 89 speed rating, but I think he beat a nice one. I think this El Prestigio is a good rival, good gauge moving forward for Brodier. Now, the other Nyquist, Vassimo, he was even more impressive because he ran in a one-turn mile, maiden special weight at first asking for Todd Pletcher, and he was the actual 2.30 to 1 second choice. The favorite in that race at 2.10 was Rapture. Rapture was a first-time starter for Brad Cox. Looks like he could be a nice colt as well. But Vassimo, he tracked the pace in third to the far turn, made his move to the lead on the far turn. Rapture came up to him in upper stretch, got right to his throat latch. Looked like he might go by him, but Vassimo had another gear, put him away, and won by about a length. He's also about twice the size of Rapture. I thought he looked like a freaking physical specimen that's well built for the Triple Crown races next year if he continues to develop into a good one. So I really liked his effort. Like I said, Vassimo, he's $120,000 yearly purchase, and he earned an 88 speed rating. So wanted to mention those 2 offspring of Nyquist. Nyquist was overlooked at 42 to 1 in the Sire Future Wager pool. Didn't really have any notables per se, but he's got a couple to watch out for, especially this Vassimo for Todd Pletcher.
And I'll mention a star guitar son, Touch Upon a Star, who won the Louisiana Champions Day Classic for the 3rd year in a row. There was really no question. He was heavily favored and went gate to wire, won by 4 1/4 lengths. In 2022, he won this race by 4 3/4 lengths, and then he beat Tumbarumba last year by 1.5 lengths. So he has been very dominant in this race. And with the win, he got $90,000 of the winner's share of the purse, and that pushed him to $1 million and over $1 million in earnings. And this was a $15,000 purchase at a 2020 Louisiana auction, so has definitely more than made up for the cost of that purchase. And this is a horse that is trained by Jeff Delhomme and owned by Set Hut LLC, of course, for Jake Delhomme. So if you're an NFL fan.
Former quarterback,
Yes.
Panthers.
For the Carolina Panthers, who lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl, but just had to mention that. No offense to Delhomme. I know they don't like to hear that.
Hey, you know what? It'll be interesting to see what Delhomme does. Touch Upon a Star became a millionaire with that win on Saturday. And he ran second last year in the Grade 2 New Orleans Stakes, the big race for older males on the Louisiana Derby undercard. He could be pointing for the Mine Star and both the Mine Star and New Orleans potentially. He loves fairgrounds. He's back in form. That's his second race back from a layoff. And it'll be interesting to see if Delhomme goes for those big open prizes.
Yeah, he almost won the New Orleans Classic this past year, but then Red Route 1 overtook him in the stretch. But yeah, he was right there. So, all right, well, I think that's all we have for what caught our eye. So let's move on to close out the year with our reflections on 2024, maybe some resolutions we have in wagering for the new year. So let's see, James, what are your thoughts?
I'm just gonna. I mean, I'm just like looking for better strategy for big racing days. These big racing days, I've talked about it before. They can be so long, and they can have so many races and lots of stakes, and it's just important, I think, to have a good wagering strategy going into the day, so you just don't get caught up in any kind of. You get caught up in any kind of storm or per se. You just want to have a good strategy, and that's something that I'm always working on.
Vance?
My wagering resolution for 2025 are still fluid, but I'll be transparent and say 2024 has been a very difficult year for me. My profits from 2023 weren't entirely erased this year, but it was close. And at no point did I gain much in the way of traction. I was especially disappointed with my results betting the English flat season after a couple successful years, but I'll focus on that again in 2025 and trying to incorporate maybe a little more wagering on the French racing product, which twinspires picked up for the first time this season. So on that front, that's what I'll do. Domestically, I'll focus a bit more on multi-race wagers like doubles and pick threes and scale back a bit on win wagering, which has been a bit of a struggle for me, to be honest, in the last year or two. So that's what I'm kind of looking forward to in the game plan for now going into next year.
And I'll echo that one thing Vance said about doing well in the European flat racing in past years. I'm optimistic he'll do better in 2025 too, since I'm often picking his brain.
Sometimes he makes even more money than I do on the races or on the tips that I do.
Well, that's because I know somebody.
Yeah, I'm with you, Vance. I feel like I had a little bit of a down year, and I definitely needed to regain some discipline. I think that I made the wrong wagers a lot of times. I'd have the right idea, but then go for the big payout with like a super, maybe a trifecta, when I probably should have kept it simple with a win bet. And especially when I came down to Keeneland to hang out with you all day, I kept going for, the exotics when I should have just been playing win bets. But that's me being stubborn. So I'm going to try to be less stubborn in 2025. That's been a lifelong resolution that I have yet to succeed with. But other than that, yeah, I think sticking with my gut as well, because there's been a few times I definitely let other opinions kind of influence mine and then backed off maybe a gut feeling I had going into a race. And sometimes, the other opinions were right, but sometimes I should have just stuck with my gut. And I feel like it's a better win when you do stick with your gut anyway, and it pays off. So that's my goal, is to be more disciplined, stick with my gut. We'll see how that goes.
All right.
All right.
Happy holidays.
we've got it on record now, so we'll find out if we stick with our resolutions. But yeah, that's it for 2024. Happy holidays to everybody, and we'll be back next year.
When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With twinspires, you can place your bets with confidence, whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with twinspires. And now you can race to victory with twinspires tournaments.